Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Chris.
I'm a pizza dog.
We've got Vince.
Surf's up, bro.
And I'm Kia. Hello, everybody. We are here with a very special show. It's our Eisner Pre-Show Spectacular. Woo! The Eisners are this Friday, and so we are doing a fun little episode. Where we are going to look at a bunch of past winners of the Eisner Award for Best Single Issue.
And we're doing this recording in our tuxedos because this is a formal.
Yeah, exactly. Woo! I've got rose.
Sequins on my bow tie.
Yeah, I've got a little rose on my pocket. If you lean in, squirt, you just got hit with water. Bam! How do you like that?
Because these are comic awards we're talking about.
That's right. These are comics. Yeah. So, that's kind of our goal with the show, to kind of go back and look at some of the stuff that we should have been reading, and that includes some stuff from the present. So we're going to look at some comics going back to 1995 all the way up to last year, 2015. 20 years worth of winners, but we're only going to do 4 of them because we don't have a whole lot of time. And if you are a regular listener, last time on the show, we said that we were going to talk about some of the other nominees for this month. Well, it's a bunch of indie comics, and sometimes those things can be pretty hard to find. And
they were surprisingly hard to find.
Yeah.
Like we were doing best short story, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, these will be a bunch of single issues. We can just get off of Comixology. And Comixology doesn't have some, and like Amazon has, like, we'll send you this in 3 weeks, and it's $18 for one issue.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that today.
So, listen, I mean, look, we would have been more than willing to, but, we do this show for fun, and we don't necessarily have the money to spend $100 on a single episode of the show. But, hey, you know what? If you'd love to sponsor us, by all means, just write a check out to All My Friends Are Right Here. That's our anchor station, and bury it in the backyard. We'll come back and we'll dig it up and we'll find it and we'll cash it. So thank you very much.
With interest.
With interest, exactly. And of course, follow us on all the regular social media things. You know how to find us. Blah blah blah.
And if you want to tell us how mad you are for buying Pope Hats number 4, and we're not covering it here, you can reach out to us on Facebook.com/allmyfriendsareright or We're Right Here, our Twitter account.
That's actually the one I was most excited to read. Pope Hats number 4. It's a weird. I almost didn't recognize it when you said it just there, Vince. Pope Hats. I was like, what the fuck is a Pope Hat? But a Pope Hat.
Yeah.
Anyways, one day I'll find that and we'll read it. But for right now, on today's episode, we are looking at the 1995 winner for Best Single Issue, which was Astro City number 4. We're going to look at the 1999 winner, Tom Strong number 1. The 2013 winner, Hawkeye number 11, and last year's winner, Silver Surfer number 11. I might have some of these years wrong.
Silver Surfer, I think, is nominated this year.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you're right. You're absolutely correct about that.
It was published like a year and a half ago, but it's nominated this year.
That's right. Silver Surfer was like the only one that we can find because it's a Marvel comic, and Marvel comics are everywhere. Have you heard of them? They have superheroes in them. You should check them out.
They're marvelous.
Absolutely. Before we jump into these things, let's talk about the Eisners just a little bit. I mean, they're kind of basically, the Oscars or whatever for comics. Pretty much one of the only major awards that I know of for comic books. Do you guys know of any others? There's like a fan award or something like that, but no one cares about that.
There may be. I mean, we could make it a secondary award for our what? No, I mean, there's that, but I mean, there's always been like sci-fi awards, like the Hugo Awards, and I mean, I know the GLAAD Awards typically recognize some graphic novels and stuff.
Yeah, like Fun Home, I think, was a big one.
And Fun Home won Time Magazine's Book of the Year, just like straight up book, not graphic novel.
Wow.
Of the year. So, yeah. So I mean, but I don't think there's anything bigger. And I mean, we were looking into it, and apparently there were the Kirby Awards before the Eisner Awards, named after Will Eisner. While he was still alive, the anecdote I've always heard is that he was the first person to take the Sunday comic strips that he used to write, The Spirit, and staple them together and sell them as a single comic book. Oh. And then later he wrote like a 120-page book called Contract with God, and he's like, I want to sell this, just 120 pages. I'm like, this is too big for a comic book. And he's like, sell it in real bookstores. Call it a graphic novel. And he invented the graphic novel term in addition to the original comic book.
Well, good for him.
these are anecdotes that I don't know if they're actually accurate or not. Again, tell us if we're wrong. Facebook.com/allmyfriends are right here. But
I believe he told people that, and I believe there's some grain of truth in that.
Yeah, and he actually, I guess the awards were around for 17 years before he died in 2005. But he wrote some great stuff. Contract with God is great. Spirit is it's a tough read now, but Contract with God is really
he's got this really great story. I forget what it's called, but it's about him sort of breaking into the comic book industry and kind of just like doing whatever drawing work he could to get into it. I forget what it's called. I should remember. Maybe we'll do like a best of Eisner himself special at some point on this show. Wouldn't that be fun? But the Eisners himself started in what, 88, and we were talking about this off the air. We think maybe because Watchmen was the first one to win an Eisner, and they probably were like, yeah, shit, this thing's great. We need to give it some awards.
We're actually like mainstream media is actually paying attention to us and saying we're doing a good job. Maybe we should capitalize upon this and actually look reputable for once.
I mean, it's a good idea, and it really does, I think, do a good job of highlighting sort of the best in the industry, where, most of it's dominated by superheroes, of course, and I mean, that's no surprise. A lot of these ones we're talking about are superheroes, and we love to talk about superheroes on this show, but I definitely always love it when the whole genre gets kind of flipped on its head. Even if it is still about superheroes, you kind of see a lot of these things sort of go around that, and even if they are set in superhero-y worlds, do what they can to distance themselves a little bit. Yeah, maybe not distance themselves, but kind of give themselves something a little bit different, something a little bit more special.
Yeah, and this is where you find out, like the Oscars, you find out about like some of the cool like indie comics that are happening that you may not be aware of. Actually, Beasts of Burden, which we covered last episode, won a ton of like best single issues or best short stories. I don't remember exactly which.
Yeah, I remember if we talked about it last time, but that's the reason we did that on the show, and so that's the reason we're doing this show. So I think
Evan Dorkin won a lot of these awards. I should read more Evan Dorkin.
Yeah, Evan Dorkin's a cool dude.
This is his best thing.
Okay.
All right, so I think that's enough preamble, so let's jump right into the stories. First off, we are going to talk about the 1995 winner, or maybe it was 96, I don't know, it came out in 95. It's Astro
96.
City #4. So really we kind of have to talk about what Astro City is. It's written by a guy named Kurt Busiek, who I really like, and drawn by Brent Anderson. And it's kind of, I mean, you see this happen a lot where writers want to tell stories set in the world of Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman, or, the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and whatever, and they just don't have the rights to those guys. And so they create their own little worlds so that they can tell the stories that they want to write. And Astro City was one of these, where in the mid-90s, Image Comics first published it, and then it, switched hands to a bunch of different publishers or whatever. But he just kind of created this city where every issue was just a different little one-shot issue that kind of, talked a little bit about the city and some of the heroes that lived there, but really kind of skirted around them and told its own little story about the people and sort of the humanity of it, which I remember really liking.
Yeah, I like the concept of Astro City more than I like the actual book's execution. Mm-hmm. It's very much a slice of life of like, what is it like for real people in a superhero world? So the narratives are never about like the superheroes. They're never about the superheroes solving problems. It's always about like, as in the story we're about to evidence, like there's an attack going on and everybody needs to evacuate their skyscraper because skyscrapers get completely destroyed like in superhero stories all the time. And it's like, well, we can't take the elevators, we can't go down the stairs because there's like a demon monster. So like what do real people do? How do they just like escape a building during a superhero attack? Like those kind of like slice of life things are really, really interesting to me. Mm-hmm. And this story, but it never seemed to work as well as I wanted it to. I read Astro City off and on for the last 10 years. I started when it a little later Astro City, like the Dark Age, which I don't think is as good.
No.
Because you're a racist.
Yeah. I think it's just because I think that one didn't focus on the slice of life that like this story does. Marvels is also by Kurt Busiek, drawn by Alex Ross, who people probably are more familiar with, which is like just a guy who just happened to see all the key events of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, if you've never read Marvels, we'll have to cover it on the show eventually. It is kind of like a best of the Marvel universe through the eyes of, just a random nobody. which is fantastic. But that's really when I started to pay attention to Kurt Busiek, and then of course Thunderbolts. I know I've talked about it on the show before. I'm a big Thunderbolts fan, which is his idea for a story about D-list villains in the Marvel universe pretending to be an A-list superhero team. I really love that.
Love that
but
story. And he also did Ultron Unlimited, which we covered like in our second.
That's right. Yeah.
Which we're not into, you guys. Very disappointing.
But Astro City #4, Safeguards. Holy shit, what a story!
It's cool.
I really liked it.
You know, to kind of set it up a little bit, it tells a story of this woman who lives on the outskirts of the big main city. Yeah, I forget what it's called. On the outskirts of Metropolis or whatever. Oh, Astro City. That's what it's called. Duh. She lives in Shadow Hill, which is like a little neighborhood out there. And I just love the little sort of details that he puts in where every morning she, gathers the wolfsbane and the crucifixes and stuff from her window to keep out all the vampires and the werewolves and stuff, because she lives in kind of the what is typically referred to as like the shitty area of the town, where it's really dark and very occult. Every morning she says hi to sort of her neighborhood's hero, who is the Hanged Man, who's just like this floating guy with a noose around his neck. Like, it's real creepy. I really like the Hanged Man. I think it's a great concept. And he never looks at her, but she still just kind of can't help but, say hi to him and kind of thank him for keeping watch over them.
Yeah, I just love all the little superstitions that's just like normal. She's like, well, I've got to get this plate, like this thing. I have this little like copper plate to ward off these type of demons, but it's a little smudgy right now, so I need to remember tomorrow to clean that off. And then this other thing that's still got another 6 months in it before the charm's gonna wear off, and then all hell's gonna break loose. And then all of her coworkers are like, "Why the fuck do you live in Shadow Hill? That place is terrifying." Like, like not even like it's a bad neighborhood. It's like it's a fucking ghost neighborhood, and like cab drivers won't go in. Okay, now I'm realizing the parallels here. As I'm saying it aloud. Okay. I just was like, this is very fun and occult, and I'm like, oh, this is real now. But like cab drivers like kind of skirt around like Shadow Hill, and they don't like to go pick up people there. Like it's all like really, really well written and well done, and just like the little touches he does in the story are really, really good. It's about this woman's life who just happens to live in this occult neighborhood.
Yeah, and
she's not occult.
No, that's one of my favorite things, though, about it, where sort of like a weaker writer might take this concept and say, oh, hey, look, this is how these superheroes are different from the ones you love. Ooh, isn't this funny and unusual and interesting? Ah, ha, ha. And focus on that. Instead, Kurt Busiek kind of takes just our pre-existing knowledge of superheroes and allows us to kind of take that as a given. It's like, okay, that stuff is there. He doesn't necessarily have to go into super detail about it. He just drops little notes about them here and there, and we just kind of accept it as given. It works really well for me. So yeah, she goes in and out of the city for work, and they're trying to get her to move into the city. They're like, hey, we got this new apartment for you, and she's not sure. Her parents are telling her not to. And one day she goes to work. Well, she's on her way into work, and she says hi to the hangman, and he looks back at her, and you're just like, oh, some shit's gonna happen today. What the fuck is going on? But
you assume it's going to happen in Shadow Hill,
right?
Not in Astro City, where nothing bad happens,
right? But she is wrong, because there's a big old attack from Demolisher and the Unholy Alliance.
It sure looked like the Fantastic Four to me.
Well,
they're the bad guys.
Save them. Yeah, the Fantastic Four come in and save them. They're the good guys.
They're more like the Wrecking Crew plus like some BDSM lady who's joined them.
Yeah.
So the dude that looks like the Thing is a good guy or a bad guy?
I mean, look, they're just taking ideas from everything and throwing together whatever works. It worked fine for me. It's, just a smash up of every idea we've seen in Super Comics before.
Yeah. I like how like I don't really track who these superheroes are. It's more like I just like the real people's reaction to like pure chaos happening.
I like that she doesn't track them either, because there's at one point she's just like, we don't know why they attacked. Maybe it was because Glowworm was irradiated by, scientific experiments, or maybe it's because Spice's partner Sugar was killed by the cops. Who knows? You just kind of mention them by name and give this tiniest little bit of backstory to them, but it's not expected for us to remember them. It's just fun little details that, again, you just accept as given. I think it works really
and I like how it completely undermines like comic books, are just like it's a bad guy and a good guy, and this is like there's so much shit going on in this world that like everything is like shades of gray, or like nobody really knows what's going on, as opposed to remember when I'd watch Batman, forever, and they would be like shooting at the cops would be shooting at Batman. I'm like, he's a good guy. He's trying to help. Why are you shooting at him? And it's like, it's a fucking dude in a mask. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, he's punching some other dude. Like, we'll sort it out later. And so I just really like it. I really like this book, and I like everything about it. Chris, we haven't heard much about you with Astro City.
Yeah, speak up, Chris.
This is not my favorite. This should not have won an Eisner Award. Controversial.
Really? We are never on the same Kurt Busiek wavelength, are we?
I guess not. I don't think this is a bad story. I think it's okay. It's not even the best issue in the trade that it was collected in, though. So
really?
I mean, the first volume of Astro City was just 6 issues, and they all focus on just sort of different corners of this little world.
Yeah, I love the Samaritan issue, which I think came out before this.
So the Samaritan, I think, was issue number 1. That's like his Superman analog. It's a guy named Asa Martin, Samaritan, who works for a paper, and he just like dreams of flying. I remember that one being really good too. I remember enjoying all of them though.
It's a really good issue, and the Nearness of You, which I looked it up, it actually came out the next year, so it couldn't have won this year. But the Nearness of You is probably the best story in that Astro City thing. It's really, really good. And this story is okay. I just really, I understand. And Kurt Busiek doesn't subscribe to this philosophy, but the moral of this story seems to be that you should stick with your own kind because it will keep you safe. And I think that's toxic and silly.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like, the moral at the end, I was like, oh, I don't like that.
I understand that, but I don't necessarily know if that's what the moral is. I mean, it does.
Well,
I can totally.
But it literally
see how
is. She's like, I'm not safe in this new crazy world. I'm safe with the problems I know how to deal with. My family who has done this exact same thing before. We have to stay together, and that's really what it's about. And it's like, yeah, on the one hand, I guess that's good for if you like sort of families that don't sort of go outside of their little bubble, but I think that's bad. So
I think the moral was maybe for me was closer to so by the end she realizes all that like they have their little trinkets that keep them safe in the city. I have my trinkets that keep me safe out here. I think it was more like I don't know, kind of a one man's trash is another man's treasure kind of idea where we all have our problems and we look past them, and we love what we love about where we live, and we tend to judge other places because they're different from us, but we shouldn't. I don't know. I kind of got the opposite feeling from you because of that, where it sort of opened my eyes to say that, hey, everywhere in the world has its positives and its negatives. That kind of idea.
I just don't like that backpedaling kind of aspect.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, that's I can see. I can see both of you guys' perspective. I went much more simple black and white perspective, and I just thought it was like interesting. It's like, oh, no bad guys are gonna ever go to Shadow Hill because it's too terrifying even for the bad guys. Therefore, I'm safer there. She almost did get raped by the Thing in that book.
No, that was what was his name?
That wasn't the Thing. That was like a super bad dude.
Was that the Human Torch?
That was Slamburger.
Okay.
Slamburger was his name. It's a great name for a bad guy, Slamburger. Damn. Yeah.
He's like the Wrecking Crew, which is Wrecker and Pile Driver.
Place now? No, that's Smashburger. Never mind. Smashburger, also a great name for a villain. Yeah.
Anyway. Also, I have a book I would have given the my Eisner Award to instead of this book, so you can hand it. If you agree, I know Vince at least has read this book. Maybe you have too, Kia. Amazing Spider-Man number 400.
Ooh, yeah.
The Death of Aunt May. The Death of Aunt May.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Mateus. I like that.
That book made me cry, and I was like, why am I crying? Aunt May is stupid.
The trading card of that book made me cry.
Oh, Vince, you're the only person I know who cries at trading cards. All right. Yeah. I mean, overall, in general, it sounds like even if this particular issue, some of us think maybe wasn't deserving of the Eisner, still overall, Astro City, a great series. If you've never heard of it, I highly recommend it. So, like I said, it switched over to a bunch of different publishers. I think right now DC owns the rights and they're distributing it
Well,
because
it ended up at Wildstorm, which was like DC, and then I think Wildstorm just disappeared, so now it's a DC
yeah, but
book.
there's a current
We'll
Vertigo.
talk about that in a bit, Vince.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll talk about Wildstorm later. But Chris, did you say you have read some of the current Vertigo series? I recall you saying you didn't like it very much.
I don't have an issue with Astro City. It is, I mean, I think Vince and you both kind of highlighted the issue that makes it hard to get into, which is that there's not really a character that you can kind of sink your teeth into and be like, this
No.
is my guy. It's really
Yeah, it is
focuses
very
on slice of
much
life.
mythology. Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it completely changes characters issue to issue. But I mean, that's also a nice perk of it because even if you're like, I didn't like the last few issues of Astro City, but maybe the next one will get me.
But and it's interesting too. I like a lot of the ideas Kurt Busiek has. Like one of the things he wanted was that it would happen in real time. So like in this first volume, I don't think it's in this issue, but there's like a Franklin Richards character in volume 1 of Astro City, and then there's actually a really good volume, like 10 years later or 12 years later, where it's like her high school graduation.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a fun thing where it's like her boyfriend gets like a TMZ type thing. They put like nanites in his, inside of him so that they can like get footage of her. So it's a fun little story.
Cool.
And I mean, that's what Astro City's good at. So
yeah, I think this was the first Astro City I read that like strung a story together better. Usually, like I like the feeling and the concept of Astro City, but this individual stories have never really come together for me.
Yeah. I've come to realize that I'm really not in general a big fan of Kurt Busiek's writing when he's writing something like in a regular universe that's expected to be part of continuity. He does nostalgia really well, and he does kind of like slice of life, human stories really well. But even his Thunderbolts, which I love, is just like dense and so muddled with history. And like I said, I didn't like that. We didn't like that Ultron Unlimited story as much. It's kind of weird.
Me and Kia didn't. Chris did.
Yeah, that's true.
When we say we,
that's what I meant. Sorry.
But yeah, no. Before we close the book on Busiek's a great historian. Of comics, and if you follow his Twitter, it's really interesting because whenever somebody like does something, he like either like clamps down the fires or like helps them, when like like Cap is Hydra or something. His Twitter follow is really interesting in that regard. But he also like I remember when he was writing DC comics in the mid 2000s, he's like very interested in like what football teams play in Gotham City and where is their stadium in relation to downtown. Like those are the kind of like urban planning things that he's like really interested in.
Yeah, it doesn't always
work.
Be a
good editor.
He'd probably be a better editor. Yeah, I don't know. Is he still writing very much these days? Like other than his own little things, he's got Astro City. He's got some fantasy series too. Forget what it's called. I haven't read it.
And he's had some kind of. I mean, they're not like major health issues, but he's had some health issues. So.
Oh, I didn't.
He's a good Twitter follow. Kurt Busiek, good guy.
Good guy.
That's a good way to close the book and transition to a guy who's known for being more prickly.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time on him. So
tell me more.
We're going to jump to the biggest prick of them all, Alan Moore. No, not really. That's not a good.
The original writer, the original author.
That's
how he's billed on Miracle Man, which is something we should read.
One day we'll do Miracle Man, but for right now we are talking about Tom Strong, kind of one of his lesser known works. Of course, he's most well known for Watchmen and, I guess From Hell, V for Vendetta, all that stuff. But Tom Strong is, we talked about Top 10 on one of our other episodes a while back that was published by America's Best Comics, which was really just like this offshoot of Wildstorm that was made just for Alan Moore stuff. And Tom Strong, I had never read Tom Strong before, and Tom Strong issue number 1 is what won the Eisner for that year, and it's this super pulpy hero, and kind of talking about his origin and everything through the eyes of this little kid who's a big fan of Tom Strong, who is I guess he's a real life superhero, but he also publishes comics, and so he's sent off for like this, superhero starter kit, and it came with his origin, and he's like really excited to read it. Holy socks! I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stop saying holy socks for like a week because he says it over and over again in this comic, and I love it. Holy socks, you guys! And so he's like reading the origin of Tom Strong on his way to school. And like I said, it's super pulpy, but in like a good way, where it's almost kind of parodying pulp comics. And like Tom Strong's parents were shipwrecked on an island. They had him there, and his dad was a scientist, and he grew up in kind of this kind of weird scientific captivity where his parents were experimenting on him, but then his parents died.
They didn't want to touch him. They didn't want to love him.
Right.
They wanted him to be purely. They wanted him to be purely based on logic.
Well,
exactly.
They needed him to grow up in a environment with like six G's at all times so that he would grow up super tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing that the mom's last name was Strong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember they're like, we don't want to love him. We want him to be a purely logical being.
Mm-hmm. It was kind of weird.
It's a little Tarzan.
Yeah.
I recently, I don't know why, I watched The Phantom with Billy Zane. Another like 1940s pulpy thing.
Classic.
It's a classic. It's 20 years old. It came out the same weekend as The Rock and got destroyed. But it is a fun pulpy 1940s thing. And I see a lot of shades of that in this. Like
not even 1940s, like 1920s, 1930s.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of Robert E. Howard, the guy who created Conan, and his like kind of horror stories for around the time. And it's strange. There's so much like latent racism in all those books. Okay, I shouldn't say racism because they're genuinely like trying to be good. Like whenever authors like that are trying to be positive towards African Americans or anything like that, they're still super racist, which is an interesting perspective. And
yeah, because it'll be like so and so is usually known for this, but this one's not that way.
Exactly,
it's like
stuff like
Jesus.
that.
But we're doing a positive depiction of this. No, you're not.
Right. Well, it's better than H.P. Lovecraft, who was outwardly racist.
Yeah, H.P. Lovecraft was not kind. Anyways, this one, like, his parents die, and so he's raised by the natives of the island, and he marries one, and he has a kid with them. And they end up kind of forming this super team of him, his robot butler that had his dad's voice, this gorilla who has been, implanted with, extra smart stuff so he could talk, whatever. I don't know.
Wasn't that another experiment the parents wanted to do?
I think so. But the son
Tom jokes about it.
And so like they've got this cool super team going, which I'm honestly like even past the first issue, I'm very excited to read about. Like I might keep going. After we finished top 10 the last time, I kept going with it, and I really enjoyed it. So I think I want to keep going with all this other America's Best Comic stuff that Alan Moore has done. But
I really like Tom Strong. I really like this issue. My concern is that because it doesn't really focus on the Tom Strong character, where it goes in future issues if it's just about Tom Strong. Because I really liked how it's like one of those pilot episodes that sets up things, but it isn't indicative of what the rest of the series is, and that would be my concern.
Yeah. So what we haven't talked about is, it's all from the perspective of this young boy who's reading the origin of Tom Strong on his way to school. And while he's on the way to school, his blimp, they take blimps to school, a taxi blimp thing.
And by blimp bandits.
Yeah, they're attacked by blimp bandits, and Tom Strong saves them. But he's so like engrossed in this comic about Tom Strong that he is oblivious to the fact that Tom Strong has just saved him. But at the very end of the whole thing, Tom Strong is like, "Hey, congratulations on being our newest member, number 5091 or whatever." And he's just like, "What, Tom Strong?"
Holy socks!
Yeah, holy socks! It was a fun little moment, and I really liked it. I don't know if what's that kid's name?
Timmy Turbo.
Timmy Turbo. I love his name. I love his holy socks catchphrase. I only hope that he shows up again, and I'll be very disappointed if he doesn't.
He does.
He does?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. I'm excited.
I have to say, this might be my favorite of the issues we read. This issue is so damn good.
It's fun. I wouldn't think it came from Alan Moore. It's,
you're right.
I think what people get this impression of Alan Moore that like he only writes like really serious comics.
But yeah, like really dour, serious comics about something.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just like, I mean, yes, it is sort of riffing on, you know, sort of Tarzan and, you know, Doc Savage, right? The Man of Bronze, and some other sort of pulp heroes. But it's so like, it's so human and it's so good. Like, I mean, that line about the, you know, when she's like, "Oh, you want to have a baby?" and he's like, "Oh, actually, I was gonna have super intelligent apes."
Yeah.
Like that's genuinely really funny. And then to have, you know, there's also a really good moment of pathos that you didn't mention, Kia, which I know people who are listening to this should read the issue if they haven't already. But the whole thing is that like the mom is like she's kind of on board with this whole like creating the perfect son thing, but at the same time like she'd kind of like to hold her baby a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And then at the end, you know, there's a really good transition where the father's like, he's perfectly safe. He's in the heart of an extinct volcano. And then the volcano erupts. And, you know, the mom is like, her spine has been snapped, basically. And she's like, you know, like, husband, where are you? Like, what's going on? And of course, like, Tom, like, powers through this, you know, steel door or whatever. And what does she say? She says, just once, let me. And then she doesn't say anything, but, you know, she basically just dies in his arms. And you're just like, oh, man, that's really sweet.
Yeah, and even Timmy Turbo was just like, oh, poor guy. You know, he's like reading the comic and he's bummed out by it on his way to school, which is, God, it's great. Again, it's for what is essentially a parody of these things. It's so well done and so, you know, on point while still changing enough of it and making it so modern feeling at the same time. Man, I mean, there's a reason.
More like an homage.
Yeah, maybe more homage to parody. You're right. But I mean, there's moments where it feels almost like a parody, but I don't. God, yeah. Overall, just really fantastic stuff.
Right. Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, the issue, if you read more Tom Strong, you'll see the issue is that Tom Strong is not designed to be like a Spider-Man type character where he's like, oh, geez, I'm worried about my money and my aunt is upset at me. Like his problems are like, how can I save all of Earth from this super monster? Oh, well, I'll just easily do that. But they do a good job of having other characters that are more human, which we don't see a lot of King Solomon or his robot butler. But they're much more human, like, you know, they're sidekicks, but they're allowed to be sort of, you know, the more like feet of clay characters. And his daughter Tesla is a really cool character too, who's actually mixed race.
I forgot to mention everyone's names. Tesla is his daughter. King Solomon is the gorilla man, and Newman is the robot named after Pneumatic Man, Newman. Who I think that's a great name for a robot man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think if you haven't read Tom Strong, read it. I'm certainly going to be finishing this one out. Anything else we want to say on the topic of this thing? Cool. Let's jump on to what is this? 14 years in the future, and talk about last year's winner, Hawkeye. Who knows all that stuff we skipped in the middle there? It can't be that important.
No, but we gotta get to the puppy dogs, the pizza dog.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Hawkeye. I mean, so this run by Matt Fraction, art by David Aja. Oh, we didn't mention the art on Tom Strong, done by Chris Sprouse or Spruce. Very good art. Yeah. Good stuff. Got to give him his due. But back to Hawkeye. Matt Fraction and David Aja did basically the series that I don't want to say reinvented Hawkeye, but kind of made him good, perhaps for the first time ever. They introduced.
I wouldn't read a Hawkeye solo book. That takes a lot to read. For me.
Maybe not a solo book, but Hawkeye was a cool character. I disagree with
he was a cool
idea
character on the
Hawkeye was.
Sure, I'm fair. I don't disagree with that. You're right. But introduced the character of Kate Bishop, who was like a young female Hawkeye.
She was from Young Avengers back in the when they made. She was with Young Avengers, written by the OC's Alan Heinberg. I really liked Young Avengers. That one won quite a few awards. I know a lot of GLAAD awards, at least.
Yeah.
In retrospect,
it was good when it came out. It just took like what 3 years to do 12 issues.
Yeah, well, the problem with that book is it's all potential. Like it's one of those comics where you're just like, oh shit, like things are gonna like this is a really good feeling for a book and it's really gonna go somewhere. But then if you just like read all 12 issues, you're like, okay, well that was an okay story.
Well, I'm glad most of those characters are still around, like Kate Bishop, who, like even to this day, the Hawkeye comics say, Clint Barton is Hawkeye and Kate Bishop is Hawkeye. Parentheses, some might say the better one. It's it's nice that they're both just running around as Hawkeye.
And Fraction and Aja had worked previously on Iron Fist with Ed Brubaker before Fraction just took it over outright after Brubaker left.
Which was also really good.
Yeah, it's also a really good run. And then, so they went into Hawkeye, and I think it just ended recently. It ran like about 20-something issues.
Yeah, and it took them a long time to kind of get it all out there. But yeah, it's really good.
But we're not talking about specifically Hawkeye. We're talking about the random one issue, which I just call the Pizza Dog issue number 11 of Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in the first issue of their run, they introduced this dog, Lucky, who was owned by like a mob boss or something, and they were, abusing him, not taking care of him. And Hawkeye essentially saves this dog, and they end up adopting him. And his name is Lucky, and I guess in this issue we learn that he is the pizza dog because he loves pizza, because this whole issue is from the perspective of Lucky the pizza dog. And it's a mostly silent issue. Does some really cool things with kind of just showing us stuff from a pet's perspective, showing us what he sees of the human world, and really giving us a story in a very minimal way, just kind of almost, telling us around the story. And I really like this.
It does little things like the word balloons. They're completely blotted out except for like the 200 words that a dog would know or learn.
Right.
And so it'd be like, help, me, what, quiet, Avenger, and so
that dog knows all about the Avengers.
He does. I did notice Avenger was one of the words. Imagine. He lives with Hawkeye. And then he also has like little graphs of how he like associates things. Like he associates like Hawkeye with bow and arrow, and also the smell of coffee, and also the guy who gives me food. And then like Kate Bishop always smells like flowers and martinis, and pizza, and coffee, and she also gives me kisses. I hurt Kate Bishop. Like it's very cute. It's just like little like graphs of like spiderweb thoughts of how the dog like relates to every character, and when he like finds characters he doesn't like, or there's one door at the end of the hall that like he's got a big question mark and he doesn't know the guy but he doesn't like that guy. Mm-hmm. It's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it also it does a really good job of explaining or revealing a pretty important and big moment in the life of Hawkeye and Hawkeye, where there's kind of this rift that's been forming between the two of them. And at the end of this issue, Kate Bishop Hawkeye takes Lucky out west to California. And all we really know of this is that, he just looks up and sees a California sign. Like, it's just... I think it's a great way to show something incredibly important in such a unique little way without very little dialogue. I think that's really cool. Kudos to Matt Fraction.
It's really an issue that you have to read twice in like a good way, because at first you're like, oh, this is just going to be like, is this like a flashback or something? And then it's like, no, it actually isn't a flashback. Like, this is actually important things, plot developments in the story you were reading, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because like there is new information in like the whole story of this Hawkeye thing is he's dealing with these sort of vaguely Russian or Chechnyan or whatever, like tracksuit guys, like this mafia, and Pizza Dog fights some of them. And we find out that one of them murdered this guy that lived in Hawkeye's building. And then he leaves, and you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah, like it's kind of like a quick, and you're like, oh, this is cool, mob stuff, blah blah blah, dog fighting. All right, now cops are showing up, and all this stuff is happening around them. Okay, this will be fun, not very important. Oh wait, this is very important. Okay, damn, whoa. The whole thing, it reminded me of. Do you guys remember in the early 2000s, Marvel had a month that was their Nuff Said month, where
Oh
every
yeah.
comic did a silent issue? Man, that was so I would say probably a big editorial mistake. As much as I love the idea of silent issues and kind of, being creative about it and everything, it's probably a bad idea to force that on all your writers and make them do a silent issue if they don't want to.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
But
because it sticks out like a sore thumb when you read trades, and you're like,
yeah.
yeah,
what the,
yeah.
oh, right, that was that month.
It was
Okay.
creative, but I remember it really pissed me off as like someone who's buying, like single issues at the time because I was like, okay, great. Every issue is going to take me like 30 seconds to read. Thanks.
I
Right.
mean, maybe it
I
was
mean,
to
I
train
remember.
you to not just skim through the images, but I've never been that comic reader. Like, I don't linger on the art, even though art takes a fucking long time to make, as I've tried to make
Yeah.
my own comics.
I mean, I remember a
Yeah.
few of them at the time were, I mean, of course, Grant Morrison's New X-Men had a great issue where Jean Grey and Emma Frost went into Professor X's head to rescue him. God, I love that thing.
Yeah, there were like
But
6 issues I remember that were like really good. But yeah, there was also
yeah.
like 30 issues where it was just like fill-in art or like whatever it
Yeah.
was, and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah, so I always appreciate it when a writer kind of has an idea like that in mind and really goes for it. But yeah, don't force your writers and artists to do that. It
Yeah.
doesn't work when you do that.
And David
So
Aja
yeah.
David Aja does an amazing job drawing this dog. He's so
Hmm.
cute and realistic at the same time. Like it's
Hmm.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to give a special shout out to Matt Hollingsworth's colors of this.
Hmm.
I know that there's a breakdown in the trade collection of this because this is Hawkeye Volume 2, Little Hits, issue number 11. But Hollingsworth only uses like 4 colors for an issue of Hawkeye. And what he uses is like Hawkeye's hair color is also like the background, and then there's like kind of a blonde-ish white, a yellow, and one blue, and then a brown. And how he mixes all that together is really interesting with shadows and everything. Like you can see what Hawkeye's hair color is the wallpaper of certain scenes.
Right.
It's really really fascinating if you actually like just pay attention to how he's doing his coloring.
I did not pay attention to it, but I'm flipping through it now and I notice it, and
Hmm.
it's very cool, I guess. Yeah, it is sort of this. Yeah, yeah. I didn't really pay attention to the color palette, but good on you for pointing that out, Vince. I thank
Yeah, I usually don't like Mac Hollingsworth's colors, so this was one where I'm like, oh wow, like he did a really good job.
you. I remember, speaking to that note, way back when I used to work for Borders, I remember having a funny conversation with someone about, hey, should we organize these comics by artist or by author? Nah, man, let's do it by colorist, just to fuck with everybody. Anyways, that's that. So I think, is there anything else we want to say on the topic of Hawkeye? I really like it. The whole Matt Fraction run, great run. If you've ever thought to yourself, Hawkeye, man, who needs to read some shit about that guy? Read the Matt Fraction run because it's very.
Read that Hawk guy.
Yeah, it's
Read that
really
Hawkeye.
good. And there's only like 18 or 20 issues or something like that. It's
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
after this it split because I think the art was taking too long or something. Where it's half Kate Bishop issues and then half Matt Fraction issues.
Mhm.
Or I'm sorry, half Clint Barton issues. So
Yeah.
it alternates between the two Hawkeyes.
I
Yeah.
do need to reread it because it got to be so long between issues that I was kind of like, what's happening?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And right now, Jeff Lemire, who's another really great writer, is writing Hawkeye, and he's doing great things with it. So just stick with the character. It's really excellent. So let's jump to the current nominations. It's a bunch of indie comics and also Silver Surfer number 11. So we read Silver Surfer number 11. So this thing's written by Dan Slott with art by one of my favorite artists, Mike Allred. Who
He's a madman
he created the character of Madman, who is
and Freakazoid.
pretty fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say
and
he's
Freakazoid.
mad because Freakazoid ripped him off.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, really good. Also, he drew one of my favorite runs of all time, X-Force / X-Statics. That
Holy
superhero
shit,
team,
that's such a good
very
run.
short-lived.
And
Really good.
also created iZombie.
I really
That's right.
disliked
He did. Yeah.
I really disliked X Statics when it came out because I was a loyal fan of X Force. But in hindsight, it is really
Hmm.
good.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
really
think they
good.
had to
Yeah.
do it to X Force, but what they
Yeah.
did, but yeah, the art's great in that. The art's fantastic in iZombie. The art's fantastic in that FF run by Matt Fraction, also happening at the same time as this
Hmm.
Hawkeye run.
Hmm.
But now
And
he's on Silver Surfer.
Yeah, and Dan Slott, who wrote this, has been writing comics forever. I remember his She-Hulk run was pretty big. He wrote what else did he write?
I
A
mean,
bunch of stuff
he's
over the
still
years.
writing Spider Man, isn't he?
Yeah,
That's
he's been writing Spider-Man
I
for
don't
almost 10
I
yeah.
don't
years.
read that crap, but
It's still pretty
Oh
good.
no, I like it. I really enjoy it. Yeah.
I've consistently been reading. Spider-Verse was amazing.
I look.
That's right.
It's
He did
not
the
a
whole
it's not a
Spider.
condemnation of Dan Slott. It's a condemnation of Hubert Ramos.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
so this series, have y'all been reading most of the Silver Surfer run?
I haven't
I
read
think
any of it.
I think this is one of the best treatments of Silver Surfer in a long time. Sort of talking about the whole run before we get to this single issue. He's basically paired Silver Surfer up with essentially a female companion, a woman named Dawn Greenwood, who's kind of a love interest, not completely getting there. And it kind of feels almost like the Silver Surfer is Doctor Who now, just kind of traveling from world to world, helping whoever needs helping, has a companion with them. Like it's usually I know we talked about Silver Surfer in our Thanos issue, our Thanos episode a while back, but it's interesting because it is this outside perspective, traveling to all these new worlds. Like that's yeah, again, I'm going to talk about Doctor Who for a while, but the interesting character is very rarely Doctor Who. We are, as an audience, always in the eyes of the companion. It's sort of the person who's seeing everything for the first time and being introduced to all these crazy concepts that, to the Doctor is just ho hum. I've seen all this shit for years, and I know everything that's going on. Um, and so I really like this run, and I really love this issue. It is a God, how would you describe this issue? It's kind of a time loop issue where Silver Surfer is
Hmm.
trying to help this group of basically this entire planet of people who, he's somehow fucked over from the previous issue, but he's like, okay, they're my responsibility now. I'm gonna find a new home for them. And it's this loop where he keeps taking them to a new home, and like thousands of their people would be sick on that world. One person protests and says, "Fuck them, let's all live here," and he says, "No, we're gonna find a new home." On their way to the new home, they get attacked, and it causes a time loop, like some time warp gun or whatever that sends them back to the beginning. It keeps going over and over and over again, and it does something that time loop issues don't often do, which is um, it repeats information without necessarily adding anything new every time.
Right.
Sometimes kind of showing it from different perspectives, and that really surprised me as I was reading it. Like it kind of imparted this sense of gravity almost to the situation. Like, holy shit, we are stuck in this loop. And like, you'd get maybe a tiny little bit of difference in between the two and see a little bit from a different perspective, just a hair, but not very much. And there's something about that I really, really liked. I don't know about you guys. How did y'all feel about this thing?
I liked it. I was a little confused by what was going on
Hmm.
through it. I liked it though because part of me was wondering. I was like, wow, Allred did like a double sized issue just in the middle of this run, and then I was realizing, oh, he's repeating panels. Okay, that's okay then. Um, yeah, I like time loops. I love Groundhog Day. Obviously, Groundhog Day is one of my favorite movies, and I like the concept of time loops. Some of my favorite episodes of sci-fi shows are where they just keep repeating the same episode over and over again, like Groundhog Day. Um, I liked the art in it because the art is really weird, and it actually looked really weird because I was reading it on Marvel Unlimited, and I thought there was something wrong
Hmm.
with my the way I was reading it because it only takes up the panels only take up half the page, and
Yeah.
the rest of it's white, and so it's like this column just going across the top of the page, but then it kind of snakes up and down through the page. So sometimes the column is like kind of bending its way towards the bottom, and then it goes back up to the top. And I didn't track it well enough. This is one issue, by the way, I'd recommend not reading on your phone ever, just because it kind of loses that nuance.
I was reading it like on a computer screen, of course, and so it was a little weird for me, but I thought it was pretty cool the way like it kind of sort of symbolized the way they were stuck on this track, like they couldn't get off of it. And so, even when they time loop, it maybe moves from the top of the page to the bottom of the page, but it's all still exactly the same. And it made for me kind of a powerful moment where they finally break out of it and
and go back to normal
explodes to the full panel. Yeah. I thought that was
because the beginning, there's a beginning character at the beginning of it that says like she's like the queen of like different possibilities, and so this is all playing out like the different possibilities until the Silver Surfer decides to not do that possibility.
Right. Yeah. Basically, the whole story is that Dawn, like Silver Surfer, for those who don't know, used to work he was the herald of Galactus, the World Eater, and so he would go to a planet and say, "Hey, Galactus is going to come eat you now. Cool, bye." And then Galactus would eat them. And so his new companion, Dawn Greenwood, didn't know that and has just found out, and she's kind of pissed at him. And so it's that moment that, the one moment of change is when he sort of, when she forgives him for all that, when he kind of moves past it and everything. It's a neat little moment.
Oh, and he also has this like I guess he's given her like part of himself to like as a ring to protect her.
Yeah.
And she can't get it off. Although one character says like she's like, I really don't like the Silver Surfer. I don't want this stupid ring anymore. Like, let's take this off. And one is, but I can't. And one dude's like, I can totally cut off your finger. We'll clone you a new finger. Like we can make this happen. Yeah. And the Silver Surfer's a little miffed by that. And then like I guess in the final choice, he's like, I need every part of myself to fight these aliens off. Like we got to do this. So then that's when he takes part back of himself, and I think that's what helps break the loop also. Although I do have a question, because there's like, was there like there's 6 billion ships and only like 12, there's so many billion ships even, not containing however many different aliens, and there's only 1,200 of them that are getting sick on this one planet that they find. And then I like the nefarious alien within the group trying to barter with the bad aliens and be like, okay, just kill this one ship, and then all 1,200 of these guys will be dead, and then we can live wherever we want, and we won't bother you.
That was a cool idea, yeah.
I like that. I think that's a really cool storytelling device. I also like from just like a realistic perspective, thinking like, well, why couldn't we just leave all these billions of people here on this one planet and just go find another planet for the 1,200? Or is it a different 1,200 that are getting sick each time?
I was thinking that myself. I wasn't quite sure about it. But maybe, again, it's a time loop. Maybe that's the first time they've run into a situation like that, and so they're going to keep looking. I don't know. It did feel a little weird to me. I don't disagree with you.
I mean, but maybe they didn't want to split up the whole family because everybody's had their planets eaten by Galactus.
Yeah. I think more than anything, I just liked that sort of, that sense of there's a sort of strange humanity where there's this rift forming between Silver Surfer and Dawn Greenwood, and she's trying to forgive him, but also doesn't 100% forgive him, just kind of is sort of somewhere in the middle there. And he knows that there's something going on, and so is avoiding the conversation. And there's something really powerful about just being forced to relive these moments over and over and over again, where there is this divide between them that they just can't seem to get past. And it is such this just a cathartic release where they finally are just like, oh, let's get past this. I feel like that speaks a lot to, the human condition, all that stuff that the Eisners pay attention to. So I feel like this issue is deserving of an Eisner. But I haven't read
Pope Hats 4, bro.
Yeah, I haven't read Pope Hats 4, so who knows? Maybe that was the best one.
And this issue, I will say, this issue is better if you have a physical copy of it. It's a little harder. It's a little harder to read because instead of having the white space that the digital version has, it's basically just an upside down version of the same, like what you're reading when it goes from top to bottom. It's
Oh.
So you're supposed to loop back around?
right. So
Like flip
it's
your
a
comic
Mobius,
around.
yeah, it's a Mobius strip basically with like this
Ah.
time queen lady in the middle who's like, she's saying, you can do it, you can power out of it, which is kind of like you read all the way through it and you're like, wait, what?
Oh,
Because it
that's
doesn't,
even cooler.
yeah, it doesn't really
Damn.
kind of, you're kind of like, wait, do I read through this whole thing? I just did this.
That's shit that the Eisner award givers, the
Yeah.
Academy, I don't know what they're called, they
Yeah.
love.
Yeah, the esteemed Academy of Wills, let's call them. Um, that's
They'll impart their wills.
Hmm.
awesome.
Their will's
uh,
power.
but yeah, I mean, the Eisners have certainly been handed out to lesser comics in the past. I'm sure. So I think this is deserving of it. Do we have anything else to say on the topic of Silver Surfer?
No, I enjoyed it. I want to check out this run if just for the art. The all red art is fantastic.
Mhm.
It's I don't know if it's done or not. With whatever happened
It's
with
still
Secret
going.
Wars.
Yeah, it's still going.
Oh really?
Yeah. It got restarted with the big Secret Wars event, where just about everything got restarted to #1. But yeah, it's still going strong. Um, but yeah, we've been talking about Eisners. I kind of want to talk about some of the other stuff that has won Eisners in the past. Is there anything else that you guys know of out there that you're just like, yeah, go check this out, Eisner Award winner for sure, big time?
No, I mean I remember like hearing about it. I think when like Daredevil by Bendis and Malieve cleaned up one year. I think that was the first time I was aware of the Eisners.
I think that's the first time that, for me, superhero comics were just like, oh wow, like a Marvel comic can be fucking serious and good. Like, I mean, yeah, I know they've been serious and good in the past, but like in a different way. Maybe it was just my age, it was college at the time, and I was just like, holy shit. But that was the first sort of big one for me that opened my eyes to it and kind of got me back into comics. Is Daredevil, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I remember afterwards, the Astonishing X-Men run by Joss Whedon won Eisners for a while. Which, man, it's a great run. I don't know if it's deserving of an Eisner. To me, it feels like if The Force Awakens won Oscar for Best Picture. It's like, okay, it's cool and everyone loves it, but Best Picture, like, okay, really, like that kind of thing. So who knows? They've kind of gone up and down in quality over the years, I suppose. But yeah, the Eisners overall, good stuff. We should trust them. Chris,
There's
you got
some
any
that I
recommendations?
disagree with. Yeah, there's some I disagree with, so I won't talk about those. But I do. Alan Moore has won a million Eisners. I agree with that.
Hmm.
Some people that we've talked about on this show in the past, like Darwin Cook, has won Eisners
Rest in
for
peace.
his Parker books, and I
Those
think
books
for
are
the
so
new
good. Yeah, sometimes they didn't give out the best writer artist books as they didn't. It looks like just they have like best writer awards and it just seems to go to Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman for forever.
Yeah.
With a few Bendis thrown in there, and then Brian K. Vaughan's won a lot lately.
That's crazy, right? Like Brian, I mean Bendis is okay, but like he's not nearly as good as those other guys.
Yeah, but like he had like 5 or 6 books in the early 2000s that were like on fire. Like Powers was really good then, Daredevil was really good then, and Ultimate Spider-Man was really good then.
And it took people a long time to realize you could only do 2 books.
Yep, you should only be doing 2 books at a time.
I don't care what anybody says. I know there's a lot of Bendis haters out there, and they say his dialogue is too quippy. But man, Civil War 2 is going on right now in the Marvel Universe, and in the last issue, no spoilers, but man, it was great issue. They killed off a pretty major character, and it was just, I mean, no quips, none of that. It was just solid and well written. I really loved it. I mean, but again, I've always been a big fan of Bendis, so who knows? Maybe that's just me, but damn, I thought it was real good. Anyways,
and some of my favorite books, Craig Thompson, who wrote Blankets, but he wrote a better book called Habibi. And he won for that. Habibi is great. And then also Asterios Polyp by David Mazzucchelli. What? I love that book. I'm glad to see Mazzucchelli got.
Yeah, the artist from Daredevil Born Again from our very first issue, and from Yeah, Batman Year One. Yeah. I want to mention real quick because you mentioned it, Chris. Darwin Cook. Have you guys read? So for a while, Darwin Cook was writing and drawing The Spirit, which is Will Eisner's famous creation, The Spirit. And have you guys read Darwin Cook's
Yeah.
The Spirit?
I haven't.
I have not. Is it worth reading, picking up?
I didn't like it.
Okay then. Cool.
I thought it was just kind of bland. It was a lot of done in one stories. I don't know. It just didn't capture the right spirit. The art, sorry.
Yeah,
the art is
buddy.
The art is really good, but it's in my box to give to Half Price Books. Because I'm just it's been there for over a year. I just haven't gotten out to do it. I didn't like it. I like the art, and I feel like I should like it more than I actually do. But I couldn't get into it. I did like the Batman the Spirit, drawn by Darwin Cook and written by Jeff Loeb of all people. I did like that book though.
Oh, wait, Jeff Loeb drew a comic?
No, he wrote Batman the Spirit, drawn by Darwin Cook.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And then that launched the rest of the Spirit series. I mean, it's fine, but I don't think it's anything that you're missing.
There wasn't enough Ebony White for your taste, Vince.
They did actually. He did better with Ebony White than Will Eisner did. I'll tell you that.
Speaking of non-Eisner, Batman crossovers, did anyone read the Batman Ninja Turtles crossover from?
I've been wanting to read that, written by James Tynion IV.
I haven't read it yet. Maybe one day. Maybe we'll do it for the show next time.
Yeah, that's actually on our plan.
Wait, isn't there a Ninja Turtles movie coming out? Let's do that for a show.
It's 2 months ago.
That already came out.
Came and sank like a stone.
Shit.
I heard it was actually better.
Rocksteady. Well, that's like again a low bar.
I kind of like the first one. Anyway, this is not a Ninja Turtles podcast. For that, check out some of my friends watch Ninja Turtles, our other podcast. Anyways, so this was our I'm sorry, I almost said Oscars. This was our Eisner Pre-Show Spectacular. For our next episode, join us for our Eisner Post-Show Spectacular, where we are going to read whoever wins for Best New Series. The nominees are Bitch Planet, Harrow County, Kaiju Max, Monstrous, Paper Girls, and The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl.
Unbeatable.
Yeah.
She's a squirrel girl, damn it.
I'm reading a couple of these series actually. Paper Girls and Unbeatable Squirrel are quite good.
I know who my vote is going towards here.
Who's your vote going towards?
Squirrel Girl, of course.
Not Kaiju Max.
Squirrel Girl is so good. It's fantastic. It's I love it. But I haven't read most of the others, so who knows?
I have not read any of them, but I'm gonna give it to Bitch Planet. So
okay. Speaking, I do want to say I was just looking up stuff for this episode.
Speaking of Bitch Planets.
Speaking of Bitch Planet. No, but speaking of nominees in general, there was an article I saw that said this was a kind of a historic year for women in the Eisners. This is the most nominations female creators have ever received in a year for the Eisners, which is really good. I do feel like there has been a lot more attention placed on bringing more females into the the comic book industry, which is really good because for way too long it's been like you're trying to get my girlfriend into comics and she's like, give me a female writer. I'm like, well, there's Gail Simone and there's that's it from the early 2000s. So yeah, it's nice that there's a lot more of them around these days. Yeah, that's all I've got. Just nice to see. What do you guys have to say on the topic of women?
Love them. My mother was a woman. Is a woman.
Very nice.
Who does Squirrel Girl?
That's actually a guy. It's Ryan North.
Well, yeah, it's Erica something.
Erica Henderson.
Yeah, she draws it.
Yeah. There's Lumberjanes. There's Bitch Planet. There's a much better swath of comics that are being created both in the mainstream superheroes and indie space by female creators, and I really enjoy it.
It's also nice that a lot of times in the past it would be like it's a female creator and she's drawing a female or writing a female character, of course.
Yeah, that kind of like tokenism also is like kind of like like Reginald Hudlin, like you're the black guy, right? Black Panther's like, well, I'd rather like to write something else, but okay.
That's a bad example.
No, he did say not Reginald Hudlin, Christopher Priest. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I was the good Black Panther run.
The new Han Solo book that just came out, a Star Wars miniseries, is written by Marjorie Liu, who also did Monstrous, one of the nominees here.
Oh, cool.
And so it's nice that they're giving such a high profile male character to a female creator. Like that kind of stuff is really neat. So who knows? Depending on who wins next time, maybe we'll talk more about that. Or if it's a male winner, maybe we won't. We'll see. But yeah, join us next time when we talk about whoever the winner is. And of course, please be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, so that you can know who the winner is, and we'll tell you what we're reading.
We reserve the right to just change what we're doing and just pick something else. Do Spider-Man instead.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? We've never done that. We've never changed.
Spider-Verse should have won. Spider-Verse should have won. Fuck Mitch Planet.
Oh boy. All right. Well, I think that's all we've got. Anyone got anything want to throw out at the very end here? No.
Nope.
Yeah. All right. Well, for Chris and Vince and myself, Kia, thank you so much for listening. We hope you will join us next time. And until then, true believer, keep reading comics or something. We don't have like a sign-off catchphrase. We should come up with a sign-off catchphrase. Send us your ideas for sign-off catchphrases. No, that's taken. Yeah, no, that's also taken. All right, bye everybody.
Nerf
Love
said.
You. Bye. Nerf said. Bye.
So I just want to establish that in 2007, Batman the Spirit #1 by Jeff Loeb and Darwin Cook did win Best Single Issue. Yeah, go figure.